years and so on, and of course postponing the elections.
Yeah.
Yes, I think certainly the Lord Mayor, it has continued on. The Lord Mayor of Leicester has continued.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Not seeing anything of her though.
I've seen her in the Leicester Mercury.
You have to buy the Leicester Mercury to see it. Sorry.
You do, you do.
Mm.
Well, watch out for the local news.
Good afternoon, everybody. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, Parmdeep.
Hello. Good to see you all, looking happy and healthy.
Drawing a beard again.
No, I've just been too lazy to shave it today. I've been, well, not lazy, I've been too busy. I normally shave just before the meeting, and one of those days running around. Okay, we'll make a start. So I'm just going to mute everybody. And when I do come to you, if you need to speak, you can just unmute yourself. Participants. Yeah, okay, I've done that now. So the reason I do that is just so we don't get any background noise as the meeting continues. So welcome everybody to this meeting of the Leicester Rotary Club on the 19th of October 2020. And do we have any guests today? We have Pam. I'd just like to say, Pam, if you could just unmute yourself, I'd just have a quick conversation with you.
That sounds ominous.
I don't know if Sarita's mentioned it to you, your club president, but I had a good chat with her. And it turned out we actually grew up on the same street and went to the same school.
Oh, I didn't hear that bit, but I knew that you and she had had a conversation.
Yeah, we grew up in Highfield, and we never, she was a few years ahead of me, but I didn't get to know her. But yeah, we have a similar background. And so we have agreed with the MLSS, which is the Midlands Lunga Service Society, to start doing some volunteering work with them. So I'm going to do a test run between myself, my wife and her. We're going to be picking up food from Moore Restaurant on London Road and distributing that just to see how it all works before we start getting involved with students and other Rotarians and stuff like that. And we had another person, Barry, sent over yesterday. It was you, Barry, wasn't it? The WhatsApp link, the Guardian link. You're muted, Barry. Sorry, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I thought I might be the only person who read The Guardian, so.
And
I thought you might not have seen it.
Well, I have on Google News, you can set up a saved search. So if you search for Leicester, it'll give you all the local news from everywhere.
That's cheating.
Yeah, it did come up the next day, but I'm really grateful you did, because I wrote to her and she's wonderful, that lady. I mean, she's helping 120 people a week by herself, pretty much doing deliveries every evening in her car. And she's doing food, clothing, all sorts of things. So in fact, what I'll do is after the speech today, I'll try and get her details, just so if you want to have a look at her. And she has a similar need. She needs people to help pick up items and get them over to places where they're needed. Oh yeah, thanks. And so yeah, that's all going along well. And so yeah, Pam, just wanted to say thanks for that. She's
Okay.
really nice. We got on really well.
Thank you. I'll pass them on.
Okay. Do we have any other guests? Yes, we have Marcus with us. He'll be joining us. I'm glad you're there. Yeah, I think you have the best background I've seen of any of our speakers.
It looks a little bit red though. I was wondering whether I should change it because it looks a bit garish, but you know, it's one of those.
No, it looks fabulous. So it's great. And we look forward to having you give us your thoughts on the retail environment shortly. And do we have any greetings from other clubs? No? Okay. We do need to approve a benevolent donation for this year, the 2020 to 21 Rotary year. It's £300 to the E-Ranger motorbike ambulance project in Eastern Uganda. So could I have a proposer Okay, Barry. And the seconder?
Yes, Patrick.
Okay, you have Patrick. And all those in favour, just raise your hand. Okay. Anybody not in favour? Okay, that's pass. Thank you.
Just for information, there's 7 members who aren't able to be with us today who've also indicated their support.
Okay. Any secretary's notices, Barry?
Just one. I circulated an email this morning about the district quiz, which won't be held in its normal format this year. David Kendrick wants to try out a version online and has asked clubs to nominate a team of 4 to help him test it out on an evening in November. So I'm willing to do it, and I just need 3 others willing to join me online to help him test it out.
Okay, do members just send you an email back today to confirm?
They could, 3 people could put their hands up now, or they could send me an email. Patrick is one.
I'd like to give it a go if you don't have enough. Yeah, I'll be down as a backup.
Roger and Simon will be first reserve. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else from any of the committee chairmen? No? Okay, great. So I'm really pleased today to have Marcus Ash, Director of Pragnall. Have I pronounced it right, Marcus? Yes? I think I and Marcus will be talking to us about the impact of COVID-19 on retail in 2020 and beyond. Thank you, Marcus. Please take it away.
Thanks very much, everybody, and thanks for inviting me back. Welcome and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you've made it possible, Parmdeep, but could I be able to share things as well? So am I able to do that with the settings that you've got?
You will now.
All right, that's super, thanks. As Parmdeep said, thank you for the introduction. I'm the Managing Director of George Pragnall Leicester. We're actually in 3 different locations, on Mayfair and in Stratford-upon-Avon here in Leicestershire. And I was fortunate enough to speak to you in February 2016, the last time we spoke, and that was in response to some questions that were asked about what was happening on Market Street, which is where our business has been for over 100 years, and the sort of changing nature of retail in city centres as well. And little did we know we were going to have the change that we've seen in the last 12 months. So the whole sort of thrust of my talk after lunch at that time was that change will happen, and I think it's more a case of how we cope with that change, because we know that will always happen. I challenged you all to think of experiences in your business lives and in your private lives where changes have come about, whether expected or unexpected. And of course, the proof is in the pudding. It's how we deal with them, isn't it? You know, it's how we deal with anything in life. Nobody expected this infectious disease, and I would challenge anyone, you know, to put hand on heart and say that they were prepared for it, because to be honest, we weren't. We weren't as a country, we weren't as an economy, and we certainly as a business, we weren't expecting anything like this. What I'd like to do is use our business as a bit of an example about what happened and how we coped with it. Unfortunately, I don't have 2 or 3 days, so I've sort of condensed it into just a few different points that we can make about it. I'll then invite questions, and just as they do on the podiums, I won't answer any of them, but I'll sort of give you some ideas. If I share anything on the screen and you can't see it, or it needs to be enlarged a little bit, just put your hand up, or if you can speak, Parmdeep will take the mute off, and we'll just sort of figure it out as we go on. As you know, I mean, we all have changes, whether it's a change in supply and demand, staffing issues, succession planning, retirement of senior people. All of these things happen, but how you deal with them is all about preparation. The George Tarrant business was first established in 1913, and I'm absolutely confident that George Tarrant was not aware that Archduke Franz Ferdinand was about to be assassinated the following year and start a war which would rage on for 4 years. I'm pretty sure he didn't know about that, but he still set up the business, and you take what's thrown at you. In that particular situation, the female members of the family actually ran the business for the 4 years, while, you know, the men were away serving king and country. and the showroom didn't close. Then there's the depressions, the Second World War, the economic downturns and everything. Let's not mention anything of the 70s and so on. And, you know, there was lots of things that happened, and still the business didn't close. So it was a little bit of a revelation when in March, we started to see this happen. I mean, when you're talking about closing a business down, just for a second, imagine, you know, yourself in business. You're probably in business now, but just imagine being told that you have to close your doors. No two ways about it. That's it. It's quite a shock, really. You know, just imagine yourself in that position. And what we did was we prepared for the worst and immediately started planning for how best to cope with it. The primary focus was twofold, really. We wanted to make sure that our people were safe because we didn't know a lot about it back then, and there was a lot of scaremongering going on in the press. I mean, the usually objective BBC, you know, were putting out shocking words and descriptions and things, and sort of spinning a story which was less objective and more sort of, you know, like terrifying. And I think that concerned a lot of people. So our twofold, you know, focus was the safety of our people, but also the safety of the business. Imagine if you run a business that has absolutely no income for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, 12 months, who knows? I mean, where does that take you? In retail, it's quite a dramatic effect because you're dealing with the general public. If the general public don't come in and shop with you, then you're going to find it difficult. Doesn't matter what line of work you're in, you're going to find it difficult. In order to fulfill these two objectives, we closed and we sent people home. We had a small team, sales team, someone from the workshop, someone from the admin department, working from home, which was about the most alien feeling I've ever had. I was working in retail locations for most of my working life. And then we furloughed the rest of the team. And that furlough system by the business, by the company, by the government allowed us to keep every single member of the team employed. We didn't for a second consider redundancies as some other companies had it right from word go. And to this point, touch wood, we've retained every single member of the team. You know, we've not made any redundance at all. We also tightened up our security. There was also, because of the sort of emotive ways of describing this, a concern that there might be something more serious on the high street with people, you know, becoming concerned, struggling, and you know, I'm not saying there was a riot over toilet rolls, but you know, the whole thing was just so peculiar, very peculiar. So we tightened up our securities. But for the next 11 weeks, we continued to do business. we've always been quite forward thinking. Every member of the team has a laptop or a Surface Pro, and that actually, all of that set up allowed them to either work from home or do some more training at home. We've got corporate training material that we use, which unfortunately, because the business has been so successful, we've not been able to utilize. So imagine having the team at home and able to do training as part of the rules of furlough. So it was actually a great way of giving them more skills and adding to their portfolio of abilities, which was a great thing, if anything's come out of this. We then had our sales team still working with delivering watches and gemstones that we in turn received from our suppliers. So our suppliers didn't stop. We were still able to get Patek Philippe, Rolex watches, Cartier and so on. And we still managed to get the gemstones that we needed to complete pieces that we had it underway. We had access to the showroom. We were able to get into the showroom once a week, but that was more to check the security. We have to time lock safes and things like that. And we were picking up and dropping off and taking deliveries of things, you know, as we were able to. We then spent quite a lot of time speaking to our customers. It was very much a sort of a business decision that we wanted to, first of all, make sure they were all okay. So we were contacting some of our customers. I've done about 10, 12 delivery runs of much needed, you know, groceries and things to some of our customers in their 90s and so on. And it was actually quite lovely to do that, you know, to try and offer some sort of help if they needed it. Most people obviously don't take you up on it. You know, they're very independent no matter what age they are. We were contacting customers via telephone, via Zoom, computer, emails. You know, there was lots of different ways that we could keep in touch. And the confidence in the brand actually impressed us greatly, because what it meant was that they were in most cases quite happy to still continue to buy things for their special anniversaries. We had one particular customer who'd been looking for a diamond ring and a watch since January, and we were just getting to the stage of pressing the button to start manufacture of the actual piece in our workshop just at the end of March, and it was needed for May. When he phoned me up and says, "How are you getting on with it?" I said, "We're closed." He says, "What do you mean you're closed?" I said, "We're closed." And then we made it for him on every single day that we could get into the showroom. The goldsmith physically made the ring for him, and I delivered them a watch and a ring in May for their 25th wedding anniversary, and a bottle of champagne. And we had a bit of a celebration in the back garden. So things did happen. But then there was also a great confidence, and it was amazing to see. I mean, there's not everyone that would be comfortable transferring £75,000 for a diamond ring or for a watch to a company that's currently closed. But we had lots of customers that were quite happy to do that. And then I was on the road. I did over 3,500 miles doing deliveries. I was not provided with a FedEx uniform. I had to turn up in my shirt and tie and everything. But you know, I actually went out to the customers and delivered the goods to them. And that enabled us to keep the business going, still doing some turnover, still getting some money into feeders. The other thing, unlikely in our industry, some of our competitors, some of the jewelers in the business and some of the people with the different watch products that we have literally closed their doors. They literally did no business for the 11 weeks of that initial closure. The big watch brands were actually taken aback by that, because for somebody to do that, it seems really strange. You know, you phone up a family business and it goes to an answer phone. I mean, that's just phenomenal. You know, well, we didn't do that. We were answering the phone. We were answering the phone to other people's customers as well. So it allowed us to get some market share and offer a different service. We thought we were going to reopen in June, and we did, but only for a couple of weeks. And then because of all the testing, you know, Leicester was closed down completely, lock, stock and barrel again, and that really threw us out. And those staff members that have been struggling being at home and were really relieved to get back to work and be back in amongst the team of people were then put back at home again with the full lockdown, only able to go out for exercise, off shopping, and it was really difficult for them. And yet we managed to keep turnover going. You know, we actually retained a decent amount from our for our initial months of April and May, and then since August, September, and now into this month, we're actually exceeding the figures that we were doing last year, which were record figures for the business. Remarkable, really. But we remain extremely cautious, and we're very concerned that a resurgence of the infection numbers could lead to a second national lockdown. But we're also confident now that we know how to weather the storm. You know, there is a way of doing it. Unfortunately, there's going to be a much bigger impact long term. And I touched on this actually in the last meeting that we had, because I talked about the fact that Market Street is a physical location, but actually as our business becomes a destination, it's people finding us and then coming to visit us. And that's been exacerbated really with what's happened. People are now shopping in a completely different way. I mean, if I could just have a show of hands, who had done a Zoom meeting before the lockdown? I'm impressed. 3, that's 4. Oh, well, well done. You're much more advanced than I am. I mean, I'd never done anything like that before. I mean, a FaceTime conversation, you know, with my wife or one of my children or whatever was about as much as I'd done with that. But this has now become the norm, you know, people having things delivered to their houses. It's, you know, it's unbelievable. I mean, I didn't realize it, but my wife proved that you could have vast quantities of paint delivered to your house. You know, it's just amazing what can happen during lockdown. You know, it's phenomenal. Theo Prophetis, the businessman and the Dragon's Den dragon, has been quoted saying that the pandemic has pushed the battle between the high street and the internet down the way about 5 years, you know, where people are now spending more and more time online and not coming into the city centres or just shopping physically anymore. More people are now happy to shop from their homes as well with their computers and their phones, from everything from food to cars and so on. And this change in the way we shop is going to have a dramatic effect on the high street. I made mention of this when I spoke and what we were doing about it, to be a destination that people will find and come to. And from presentations that we've had at our business meetings, it was always a case of an explanation that the most important thing is bricks and mortar, as well as a good internet presence. And that's where we've really been playing to that for the last sort of 5 or 6 years. We have 3 physical locations. We have a showroom in Stratford upon Avon, which I hope you can see on your screen there. We used to be 5 and 6 Wood Street, and now we're 5, 6 and 7. Don't ask me why they've got you know, the odds and even numbers on the same side of the street. It must be a Shakespearean thing. So 5, 6 and 7 are our locations in Stratford. And of course we have our location in Leicester. It was opened in 1913 by George Tarrant actually, and bought by the Pragnall business in 1996. And just recently we've opened another location in the heart of Mayfair. So in 2018, we hoped a little boutique showroom in Mayfair as well. So we've got the bricks and mortar, and we feel that that's always going to be essential for that showroom experience. People still want to buy luxury goods in a certain way and have that sort of, you know, joy and excitement and hopefully good service that they receive. But linked to that is also something which is becoming even more important, and that is our website, of course. And this is the virtual world. You know, we might get, you know, let's say 2,000 to 2,500 people coming through our doors physically, but 60,000 a month looking at our website. And that's where people often do their research. You'll notice as well that all that we try and do is to tie all these things together so you can come and speak to us. So at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see, can our experts help you? So you can actually start a conversation online, which makes everything very interactive. We don't want it to be an exclusive, you buy online or you buy in the shops. You don't come to the showroom, you just stay at home. What we'd really like you to do is do the research, get in contact, and then come and visit. That's critical for us. Now, I'll put you on the spot asking about Zoom. How many of you are on Instagram? You know, can we have another show of hands? How many of you are on Instagram? 3. What are you doing? How do you find out what's going on in the world? How do you follow people? I don't know. I wasn't doing it either, but we are now. So we've got Instagram, which is very, very portable. It's what people do. It's what people use. It's a great image thing. It shows what we're about in terms of putting quite emotive images on there. We've been allowed to share birthday celebrations from customers and special, questions being asked, re-engagements and things. It's all been shared on there. And we've now got just short of 10,000 people following us, which, if you think about it, you say something and 10,000 people listen. You show something and 10,000 people look. It's phenomenal. It's an unusual and a modern medium. The combination of the bricks and mortar and the digital world, we think, is the way we do this. And therein laid another fantastic opportunity for us. We're training our teams at home, but what we also had was a team of people working on our website, because we wanted to relaunch the new website just before Christmas, our main trading period with our traditional domestic customer base. But of course, having a lockdown like this meant nobody was being distracted with annoying things like sales. You know, they could actually get on with their admin things and their IT things and all the rest of it. So we were actually able to put together the website and launch it way ahead of the expected time as well. So we were ahead of the game in terms of what we were able to do with that. And I was trying to share a live feed of it so that I could show you some of our product, but I've not tied that into it, so I've not got that for you. New website up and running, everything working. But there's another problem. We have some of our customers are international, both in the Middle East, Far East and abroad. And although they're not traveling here, they are visiting the website and then they're asking to buy product. And it's quite difficult because, you know, when you do have, we won the Queen's Award for Enterprise last year because of our international work with some of our foreign guests visiting Stratford-upon-Avon, Mayfair, and also some of the customers in Leicester as well. It's very hard to do that when nobody can fly anywhere. So none of our foreign customers have been to see us. And to actually see that we're retaining such a healthy turnover without that foreign impetus as well is remarkable. The business as a whole is very strong because I think we're very much service-led, and it's all about product, people, and about communication, and that's what we've been trying to do. As Leicestershire man David Attenborough would say as well, it's all about evolution, I suppose. You know, the business animal must adapt to its ever-changing environment. So, you know, and if you adapt, you survive, and if you don't, you die. And that's as much as I have for you. If you've got any questions, I'm quite happy to answer them.
Thank you, Marcus. Fascinating. Do we have any questions? If you do, please put your hand up and unmute yourself. Yes, Richard.
Yeah, I think you've given a fantastic description of a company that has maintained an excellent service despite the COVID situation that we're in. And it's clear that there are basically two groups of people. There are people like yourselves who continue to wish to provide an excellent service despite the problem, and those who offer a poor service and then just blame the problem. From the Chancellor's point of view, what sort of support have you either asked for or received from Rishi Sunak?
We've not asked for anything, but anything that we were entitled to, we've claimed anything that we could do. We've also spoken to people that we're financially invested in the industry as well. We're in a brilliant position of not actually having many creditors, so we've not really got any sort of draws on our turnover, on our income. So it's actually it was quite straightforward for us to cope like that. But we've also been a little bit of a victim of our own success, Richard, because what we've done is whenever we've made profit, rather than leave the money in the bank, we've actually invested in more product. Does that make sense? Because we think that having more product, whether that's fine watches, jewelry, gemstones, and so on, is where we are successful. That's what we know. And leaving money in the bank when there's very low interest rates, is not really a good idea. But having said that, when a pandemic hits, you need a lot of cash. You need cash reserves. So that was a little bit of a shock to the system, but again, it's only a temporary glitch because we tightened up our buying. We stopped buying anything but the most essential pieces because we have substantial stocks already. I mean, we could effectively not buy anything for 2 years and we'd still have good stock holding. So, it was fine with that. But I think that the biggest single thing that has helped not just our business but every other is the furlough payments. And I think a lot of us have got an opinion on how much they were and how long they've gone on for and the rules of it as well. But the fact that it was done so quickly and so dynamically and yes, did leave the system open to abuse as well by some companies, and I've read about that. But we very much used it for a retention of our teams, and we followed the rules to the letter of the law. So that was the single biggest thing that helped our business. I'm sure there are other businesses that I think there's been some sort of loans being offered for businesses. And I know some of my customers, I won't tell you who they are, have taken advantage of that, where they could have a £50,000 advance. You don't pay anything for a year. And, we weren't in a need for that. We didn't use any of that. So certain things that were done were brilliant and helped us, but other things, they weren't relevant to us.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Michael.
I wonder whether your customer base consists of those people who are least affected by COVID.
It's interesting actually, because I think our customer base is most affected or could be most affected by COVID. I think, as I understand it, younger people sort of under the age of 20, I mean, and I've seen them hanging around in Leicester in groups, all these students with no masks on and going out for a drink at 6:30 because the pubs close at 10. What's going on? It's not affecting them. And of course, they're not our customer base. Our customer base is really the 30 to 95, let's say. And I think that when we look at some of our more mature customers, they could very much be affected by what we do, very much. So we've been particularly cautious, everything that we've done. I mean, it's a little bit surreal going to somebody's house and putting a parcel that's been sealed up specially on their doorstep, and then you walk to the end of their garden and then you telephone them and they know you're coming because it's all been arranged. And you stand at the bottom of the garden and then they take the parcel in, check it, then come out and give you a big wave. It's all a bit surreal, but to protect those people, I mean, God forbid, I mean, imagine giving something to one of my 80-year-old customers. I wouldn't live with myself. It just wouldn't work. So, yeah, Michael, I definitely think this pandemic has the potential to affect my customers more than most, because we deal with more senior customers, more senior people. Yeah.
Thank you. We have time for a couple more. I have. Oh yes, Tim.
Marcus, my offices are not too far away from Market Street, and I've really been dismayed by the number of shops that have closed down and since the COVID. Is there any sort of light at the end of the tunnel for Market Street and some of those shops becoming reoccupied? Because it's a lovely street and it did have some super complementary businesses around you, but it's not looking its best at the moment.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for your kind words. Well, we're optimistic that next year, the summer of next year, we'll see the, I think, is it the Gresham building? It used to be called the Phoenix building, but I think it's being, it was originally called the Gresham building. It's going to be reopening in a multitude of functions. It's going to have very high-end accommodation, boutique, hotel, commercial, and different things as well. And I understand as well that a number of the commercial units in that building as well have already been let. I think that without becoming political or talking about the millions of pounds of funding that the local council have supplied, I think the mayor's daughter's got a location opening up in there as well when it reopens. So that's helped, you know, I'm sure. But it's all good. Once that opens, it will attract more business back to this street. But I think we've always tried to do what we can. We're the ones that put our hands in our pockets for the flowers that go down Market Street. And there's suddenly been some greenery arrived just recently. If you've not seen it, come and have a look down Market Street. It's quite interesting. There are some wooden boxes with sort of growing vines, you know, out of the top. And I'm not convinced grapes can grow in those conditions, but who knows what they're doing, you know. So there's some shrubbery and things that have been added to Market Street to lend a little bit of, you know, alternative street furniture. But Tim, it's the biggest challenge, and I don't think it's Market Street. I think you look across most of the different locations, Gallotree Gate, you know, High Street, you know, the High Cross has had those locations that were on sort of privileged rental rates when it first opened to get people into it, now gone. TM Lewin's closed, you know, that's gone 100% online now as a business. I mean, it's like the most surreal situation where it's not us, it's everywhere, you know. It really is poor. It's a challenging situation. It really is. I don't have an answer.
I have a question, Marcus, on the online side, as you're kind of moving yourself into that. Is it a problem that obviously you've got a much wider customer base open to you because it's now online versus in one location in Leicester, but does that not also affect pricing power because you've got so much more comparison shopping that the customers can do? And so how do you differentiate from other places they could buy the same item from? Is it a case of the brand, the power of the brand, or is it service or something else?
That's a really good question. I think that we love comparisons because with us buying, if I talk about the jewellery side of it first of all, and please forgive me if this sounds like a sales pitch, and do please come in and shop with me. But you know, anyway, on the jewellery front, we're actually a 6th generation jeweller, so we've actually known people in the trade for over 100 years. Now that puts you in quite a strong position. And when you go out to buy anything, if you say, well, I'll have 1 sack of potatoes, the price is £2.50. If you say I'll have 10,000 bags of potatoes, it suddenly becomes £1 a bag. You know, so when we go out to buy, we spend £5-6 million on diamonds each year. Now, if you think about what that is as a buying power and how many people in the country are actually doing that, I can tell you that does differentiate us and allow us to get things at a special price. We also talk to someone very high up the food chain in terms of gemstones, diamonds, and so on. We're just watching Richard's dog try and get in on the action. And if you're talking to the actual people that cut stones, then obviously you're buying the diamonds at the very, very top level. And then we, as a manufacturer, we make the diamonds ourselves. We make the piece of jewellery ourselves, so that we've actually got all of that saving that we can pass on to someone. So if somebody looking for an engagement ring looks on the website of 5 or 6 other different people and then comes to ours, they'll be actually quite taken aback by the price and think there's something wrong, because we deal with everything in platinum rather than white gold, and the prices are 25% less. But because our image is very much a locked door and a security person outside and so on, it's a bit daunting for some young people. You know, it puts them off. You know, and we appreciate that. You know, we're trying to be a little bit softer. You know, we've got trying to be a softer approach. It's hard to do that. You know, but that on the jewellery side is our strength. We have really unique pieces. I showed a very, very interesting ruby, which was one of the most beautiful gemstones we've had for a long time. It's 4 carats in size, and it has a price of £490,000. Now, the interesting thing is that Parmdeep, we'll sell that. We'll sell that because it's just so fantastic. And having customers that will buy that means that we can then go into the market and buy anything like that. We would buy it immediately because it's so rare. So on one side, on the commercial side, we're very commercial. On the very rare and exquisite side, well, we made the Queen's engagement ring, so that's quite a nice heritage. You know, there's lots to it, which are our strengths. And as you said, I didn't want to say about the extremely good service that I will offer or my team will offer, but you know, you would hope that that's the case. On the watch front, the watch houses have actually made it very simple. There is nothing, no discounts on the most important watch brands like Patek Philippe and Rolex and so on. The days of discounting those things are long gone, with the brands actually exerting power over the retailers by simply closing accounts that we're discounting. How effective is that? You lose a £5 million business a year because you've been discounting it. So, you know, it makes those people that weren't discounting and weren't being price competitive, offering more of a service and an experience. The chap whose 25th wedding anniversary, it was a Rolex that he had. You know, it's all about you know, it's all about transparency. It's all about how it looks. It's all about, you know, the business and how it works. You know, and I think the biggest thing in our favour is the fact that we have been around for so long. I know that we were called George Tarrant before in Leicester, and some of my customers refused not to call it Tarrant. They say we're coming into Tarrants, which I love that. You know, and sometimes when we're answering the phone, we have to stop ourselves because we're thank you for calling George Pragnall. Sorry, it's not the other one anymore. So it is a change, but that's not a bad change. It's still a family business. It's still run by a family member. It's what it is.
Well, Marcus, that's fantastic, and thanks for sharing. And I wish you all the best. Just one last question. Can we can squeeze one more in? Patrick, go ahead. Just unmute yourself, please. You'll just need to unmute yourself, Patrick. There we go.
Just on that last point, of course, there's been a 100-year link between the society, between the club and Tarrants. George Tarrant was one of our founder members, and of course he made the jewellery for the president, and all the past presidents' jewels are also those of us who had the privilege of passing through the very uncomfortable chair. Now have these wonderful jewels for life, which again were designed and made by George Tarrant. So there's a continuing link there.
That's a lovely connection. I hope that I get to speak to you every 4 or 5 years and keep this tradition going.
Well, you can join and come every week.
I was wondering whether that's what you were alluding to, Patrick. They're very good.
I thought he might ask you for a discount.
Oh no, well, we can do that for him anyway.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcus. Appreciate you having me with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna, if everybody could just unmute themselves, we can all say goodbye. Unless Richard wants to add anything, I know people like to hear from Richard. Richard gave a very good update last week.
I just really a bit of good news. Well, it is good news. I mean, I remember last week I said the number of patients in hospital was 45. It has gone up to 46. But that's it. And Leicester itself, in terms of the infection rates, level right off, apart from Oadby and Charnwood, but they're not. And in the last week there have been 10 deaths, which is very sad. But if you think that normally at this time of year you would have of those who do die in hospital, you would find 10 or 20 people normally dying of some form of pneumonia anyway. So, and our overall number of deaths is pretty in line with what we would normally expect at this time of year. So I think that there's no doubt that, you know, obviously the second wave, or whatever you want to call it, obviously came to Leicester before it moved further north, and I think we're past, well, certainly at the peak of it. And so you can choose to decide whether you say that's because we had lockdown or it's because of despite lockdown, but that's up to you. I refrain from comments, but that's all I have to say. So I think we're heading in the right direction anyway, and the hospital itself is functioning pretty as normal. There's only a handful of patients in ICU, so ICU is not under any stress as it is, I think, in some of the more northern metropolises.
That's good. That's reassuring to know. Thank you, Richard. At our next meeting, we have Peter Berry, the District Governor, who will be making his official visit. There aren't any of the speakers that week. We have 20 participants today, so it's a good turnout. There are no meetings after lunch, and this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you all next week.
Bye.
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 Bye.